How can you say that our mission is Rabbi Yehuda holds Breira? We have a mission that shows Rabbi Yehuda does not hold Breira. Person bought wine from a kusi. This was before Chazal made a gzeir that we're not allowed to marry them, or that they were still Jews, but the kusim did not believe in Torah Shabbal Peh. So anything that you bought from them, you'd have to give Trumas and Maisras. Now, let's say you don't have kalim to separate the Trumas and Maisras. You just have one big jug of 100 ounces. So you say, Shnei lugin sha'ani osid lahafrish arei in truma. 5 hours from now, when I get the kalim, I'm going to be mafresh 2%, because truma is usually 50%, 1/50th. So 2 out of 100. And retroactively, when I give truma, then it'll work for now. Asara ma'aserisha, and later on I'm going to separate 10 for the ma'aserisha and tisha, because what's left is like about 90. You give 9 ma'aser sheni, umeichol, and you transfer the kedusha of the ma'aser sheni to money. V'shosa miyad div Rab Meir. You can drink it right away. You're going to use the principle of Breira, that later on, after I give the Trumas and Maisros, it'll be retroactive to the beginning when I drank it. However, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Oisrin, obviously because Rabbi Yehuda holds no Breira. How could you tell me our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda of Breira, but here we have a raya that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of Breira? Ula Amar, Lesser la ayom masnisa. Now, why would you reject our Mishnah because of Ayo? Our Mishnah is going to be opposite from Ayo. How can you say that our Mishnah is opposed to Ayo because Rabbi Yehuda holds of Breira? Here it's very clear that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of Breira. So Ula Zuze Zuzik Tani. Ula understood the previous Mishnah that they were pairs, meaning Divrei Rab Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, that they hold of Breira, and Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Oisrin. So that would make Rabbi Yehuda consistent with our Mishnah, with this Mishnah as well. However, right now, the Baraisa regarding the wine seems to suggest that Rabbi Yossi does not hold of Breira. The son of Rabbi Yossi ain't Breira. It can't be. I'll show you that Rabbi Yossi holds of Breira, but not. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Shtei Noshim Shalokos Kineim Be'eruv. 2 women who gave birth, so they have to give a pair of birds as part of the Korban Leda. And they bought it b'shutfus. Oh, shenasnu kineim lakoyin, or they gave money to the koyin, or they gave the birds to the koyin, and they said, Ezer sheyirtza koyin yakri voila. Whichever the koyin chooses to be the ola, we agree will be the ola. Ula ezer sheyirtza yakriv chatas chatas. So even though the koyin is doing this later on, retroactively, we're using Breira to say that this is what the women wanted all along. So how could you tell me Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold of Breira? It's obviously he holds of Breira. Amar Rabba, there's no case of Breira. Hasam kishihisnu. They made a Tanai in advance. Whatever they call it. So therefore, we're not just relying on unstated Breira. They made a verbal Tanai. So if that's the case, so then what's the Chiddush? Why shouldn't the Tanai work? Because Kamash Blanket Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda, Ein Hakinin misparshois, the birds only get their designation at the time of lekichas bailim, when the bailim go to the market and they buy the bird and they say, I want this to be an ola. Oh, basias koyin. Or at the time when the kohen does the avoda, and a bird chatas is shechted differently than a bird ola. So you see, even when the women did not necessarily make their knowledge understood right away, it's as if all of these cases are treated as if they made it tonight in advance. So there's no proof for Breira. Freit the Gemara, I'll bring you another. You claim Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold of Breira. I'll show you he does hold of Breira. Sav Rabbi Yudain Breira Batanya. Am ha'aretz she'amar l'chavim. An Am ha'aretz who does not give trumas and maisras told a chaver who's careful in trumas and maisras. Kach li aguda achas shel yerek or gluska achas. Be for me a shaliach. Go to the market, buy me a bunch of vegetables. So when he gives it back, eino tzarich la'aser div Rabbi Yossi. He doesn't have to give meiser because we don't see if the chaver bought it himself. Now he owns it, and now he gives it to the Am ha'aretz in another transaction. The chaver would be chayiv to give meiser from it, but Rabbi Yossi says he's not chayiv because it's only a chsafek because it's dmai. But maybe it's Hoover Adavar L'Mafreya that vegetable bunch that he bought, he didn't buy it with the idea of acquiring it himself. The Chachamim are in Tzarech La'aser because we can't use Breira. So we see Rabbi Yossi holds of Breira. The Gemara says Eipich. You have to switch. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says he has to give Meiser because he doesn't hold of Breira. So now we don't have the stira in Rabbi Yossi. Because the brisa of wine shows that Rabbi Yossi does not hold of Breira, and this brisa holds that he doesn't hold of Breira. Toshma, ha'oimer meiser sheyesh li bevesi. The meiser that I have at home, the meiser sheni, mechul al sela shetala b'yodi b'nakis. When I reach into my pocket and I get a coin, the Meiser Sheni should be mechulal on that coin. Rabbi Yossi says mechulal. Rabbi Yossi seems to use Breira to say that when I take the coin, it was Huvra Dover L'Mafreya, that I'm talking about the Meiser in my house. So again, we have a proof that Rabbi Yossi holds Breira. So again, the Gemara says Epuch. You have to say Rabbi Yossi Omer Lo Chilel, because Rabbi Yossi does not hold of Breira. So here we went ahead and switched two baraisas to satisfy that Rabbi Yossi will not hold of Breira. The Gemara questions that. Umay chazis, the avches tarte mekamei chada. Why you had one baraisa, one Mishnah that seemed to suggest that Rabbi Yossi held of Breira, and you had two baraisas that show that he held of Breira, and one that shows he didn't. Why on earth would you switch two of them because of the one? Switch the one because of the two, right? Epachada become a tarti. The Gemara says no, because avada ibchatanya, because one of the brises was clearly mistaken. Biktani seifa, because the seifa of that brisa said umoid Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi would agree that ba'oiver meiser sheyesh lebesoch basi. The meiser sheni in my house yemachol al selach hadosh shetala biyad biyad ibn akis, a new coin that comes from out of my pocket shechilel. Now in that case, midiko amar hacha shechilel michlal dahasam lo chilel. In the first case, it must be the Rabbi Yossi holds it's not chilel, and therefore we see clearly that in that case he didn't hold of Breira. Now, what's this case of Sela Chadasha? Hi Sela Chadasha Hechidomi. Does he have 2 or 3 coins? It's still the same case of breira. The selach chadasha means he has only 1 coin. So my tal, then there's no breira. We know for sure that coin's going to come up. So ein chanami, it really didn't have to say the word tale. But in the case where you had 2 or 3 coins and you don't know which coin's going to come up, so the word tala makes sense. So stylistically, editorially, I did the Tana Reisha Tala, Tana Sefer Nami Tala. It's just the second use of the word Tala was not dafka. It was just to make the brisa symmetrical. Amalei Rav Rav Nachman. Man Hai Tana. Who is the Tana? The Afilu B'Drabbanan Lesle Brera. So fine, I understand. There are people that meet the Oraisa law don't hold of Brera. But is there a Tana that holds even by rabbinic law that there's no Brera? Yes, the Tanya. Omer L'Chamisha, he says to 5 people, I'm going to put some food down here for an Eruv. Hareini ma'ariv al eza mikem she'irtze. And I will decide later on who I want this Eruv to be operative for. Ratziti yelech. The one that I choose will be able to go 4,000 amas. Lo ratziti lo yelech. However, the Brisa clarifies. The Ratzah has to happen mibod yom. If he chooses one of the 5 people before Shabbos sets in, then Eruv. But if he didn't designate one of the people once nightfall came, Mishachashecha ein Eruvo Eruv. So we see, even though Eruv is, we don't say retroactive designation, so we see we have a Tana that holds even by rabbinic law, i.e. Eruv, there's no Brera. So ishtik v'lomer le v'lomidi. So v'lemalei Tana devei ayohu. We already had a Tana ayo who didn't hold of Brera. Why didn't we just say very simply that this brisa is ayo? So the more answers lo shmile. He didn't hear that, so he couldn't say it. However, Rav Yosef Amar Tanoi Shakalta Me Almo. I don't understand. Did you forget Tanoi? Tanoi. It's Machlekes Tanoi. The Tanya. Hareini Ma'ariv l'Shabboser Shel Kol Hashana. I'm going to put food down, and I'm going to make an air for the whole year. Ratziti. If I choose to use the Eruv, then I'll go 4,000 amas. Lo Ratziti Lo Elech. But Ratzah mibod yom Eruv ve'eruv. He has to make his decision before Bein Hashmoshes. Mishachashecha, then it's already a machloikas. Rab Shimon Omer Eruvo Eruv because he holds of Brera. The Chachamim Oimrim ein Eruvo Eruv. So the Chachamim clearly hold that even by rabbinic law, there's no Eruv. How can you tell me Rab Shimon holds the Eruv is good? We have other cases where Rab Shimon does not hold of Brera, like before, in the case of the wine. So more says Ela Eipach. It's here in the Baraisa, it's Rab Shimon who says the Eruv is not good, and it's the Chachamim who say the Eruv is good. So the Gemara says, why did you have to switch it? My kasha. Dilma ki lesle Rab Shimon Brera b'doraisa. In the case of Trumas and Maestros, which is Doraisa, that's when he didn't hold of Brera. Aval b'drabanan here by Eruv, maybe Islay. So why did you have to come and switch the Shitas? Just say that perhaps Rab Shimon holds of Brera by rabbinic law. So that you couldn't answer. Because Ksavar Rav Yosef, it's all or none. Mandi Islay Brera, Loshna b'doraisa, Loshna b'drabanan. Islay. The one who holds of Brera says makes no difference whether it's Torah law or rabbinic law. Man de lesle Brera, the one who doesn't hold of Brera, loshna b'deraisa of loshna b'drabanan, either way lesle. Now, We had the Baraisa of the Truma, where Rab Shimon said there's no Breira, and we had these other cases. Rava Omer Shani Osam to be Inyan Reishis Sheshiareni Korin. You know why over there it didn't work? Not because of Breira. When you separate, there you had 100 ounces of wine. The 10 ounces of wine in there is not distinctly different than the wine around it. When you give truma, it's got to be clearly different. It's got to be nicker. If that's true, if he has two pomegranates, both of them teva. V'omar im yorduk shamim hayom. If rain falls today, yehi zeh truma zeh. Pomegranate A will be truma for pomegranate B. V'im lo yorduk shamim hayom. If it doesn't fall rain today, yehi zeh truma zeh. So pomegranate B will be truma for A. So I understand. Ochanami ben yardu ben lo yardu then midvar klum. It shouldn't work because you can't tell the difference between these two pomegranates. So if Rava is correct regarding this principle of reishis sheshiareni korin, it shouldn't work with the two pomegranates. Maybe you'll say, you know what? It doesn't work with the pomegranates. Vatnan trumas hakriyazeh. If you have a pile of wheat and you say the truma and its meiser are within the pile, and the truma's meiser zebetocho, Rabbi Shimon Omer karashem, it's okay. The wheat in the pile, you can't distinguish between the wheat around it. More says no. There you can distinguish it. Shani achad the ikasvivov. You have other grain around it. It means, it doesn't necessarily mean the grain within the pile. It means the grain around it. But the case of the wine, it's all the same. That's why over there it didn't work, but here it works. Now, if you don't like that answer, I'll give you the reason. Over there by the case, we had 100 ounces of wine in one jug. And we said that he doesn't have kalim to separate the trumas and meiser. So he says, in the future, when I get the kalim a few hours from now, and I dump the trumas and meisers out, it'll be huvra dover lamafreya that it works now, and I can drink the wine now. So those who argued with Rav Meir said, if this jug breaks in the ensuing 3 hours, and you never get a chance
8 o'clock. You've got the thing.
And you never get a chance to separate the trumas and meisers. So right now you're going to be drinking tevel. How can you avoid that, Rav Meir? Omer lahen, that is such a unlikely event. I don't worry about it. We'll deal with it if it ever breaks. So why did you have to go to that svara of the Ba'in and Reishis Shashir and Nikarim? Mike Omerle, what was that dialogue? Why did you say all along that you have a problem because maybe the jug will break? So Hachi Kamerle, Lidi Don, the whole issue of Breira doesn't come up because Ba'in and Reishis Shashir and Nikarim, and it doesn't have it because you can't make a distinction between the wine in this jug and it's all the same. But lididcha, even according to your shita, it still shouldn't work because if you're going to have to rely on the fact that you're going to give trumas meisers 3 hours from now, well, between now and 3 hours from now, the jug can break and you're going to be lemafreya drinking tevel. I'm not choishish for that kind of unlikely event, so therefore it's not a problem for me. Okay.
Ernie, quick question. Why does the Gemara here use this concept of breira? What's the difference between the word breira and lemafreya?
No. Breira is retro.